Okay, so today we're diving into a really interesting story about Cordell Lewis and Caleb Anthony. And we're going to be looking at them mostly through this documentary that was made about their lives and how their family really kind of resonated online and became, like a phenomenon, and what that kind of says about, how we think about families today.
Yeah, and particularly their story as an LGBTQ family, right?
Hmm.
So I think a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is representation and the power of social media and the power of seeing yourself reflected in media, right? Because I think their story is so much about that.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll definitely get into all of that. So the documentary starts out right away. It like immerses you in their world like immediately. And it's so interesting. They do this by basically showing you like a visual montage, almost like you're scrolling through their Instagram feed.
Interesting. Yeah, so like right from the start, they're kind of highlighting the role of social media in their lives.
Yeah, exactly. And you see all these like, family moments, vacations, just like their life together, celebrations, all these snapshots. And I think it's so effective because like right away, you get the sense of them as like a solid family unit. It's not just like two individuals. It's like, okay, this is a family right from the start.
And that's an important distinction to make, right? Because I think a lot of times when we see representations of LGBTQ to families in the media, it's often focused on the individuals or like the struggles they face to get to that point.
Yeah.
But here, they're centering the family unit from the very beginning.
Absolutely. And after that kind of initial, intro, they go back to the beginning, right? Back to how Cordale and Caleb first met. And you see all these like old photos, those kind of grainy, nostalgic photos of them. And you hear them like reflecting on those early days, like when their connection first sparked and the dreams they had together.
So it's kind of like grounding their present success in their history as a couple. Right.
Yeah. And I think it's important because it shows that like their viral fame, that came later wasn't built on nothing. Like they had this solid foundation already, these shared values and aspirations that helped them kind of navigate the complexities of life, both before and after they became, this sort of public figures.
Yeah, it humanizes them in a way. Because I think sometimes with social media, it's easy to forget that the people behind the posts are real people with real histories and relationships.
Yeah, exactly. Now, before Caleb came into the picture, Cordale was already a father to 3 children. And so the documentary kind of goes into how they navigated this whole like blending their lives together as a family. And it's really cool because they show these everyday moments like, family outings, bedtime stories, just like the general chaos and joy of, raising kids together.
And so it's like a different kind of representation, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just about being an LGBTQ couple. It's about the challenges and rewards of creating a blended family and what that looks like for them.
Yeah, definitely. And then like a big milestone happens in 2016. They welcome their son together. And you see like the anticipation leading up to that, their hopes for this new addition to their family, and like the realities of becoming, first-time parents together in this very specific context.
I mean, that's a huge moment, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like expanding their family even further and solidifying this idea of like, what does it mean to be a family in the 21st century, right? Because it challenges so many traditional narratives about family formation.
Absolutely. And so this is where their story really takes off online. They decide to start sharing their lives more publicly on social media, especially on Instagram. And the documentary actually shows you like screenshots of their posts. Like a lot of them are just like really ordinary snapshots of them parenting, being affectionate with each other, just like everyday stuff. But for some reason, it resonated with a huge audience. It went viral and people were sharing it everywhere, commenting on it like it was a phenomenon.
And that's really interesting to think about because it's not like they were doing anything extraordinary.
Yeah.
It was just like genuine glimpses into their life as a family. So why did that resonate with so many people? What does that say about like what people are craving to see online?
Yeah, I think it says a lot about the power of authenticity, right? Because nowadays, so much online is like highly curated and polished and kind of fake. And then you have Cordell and Caleb just being themselves, showing the messiness and the joy of family life. And it was like refreshing, relatable, and people connected with that.
Yeah, definitely. And the documentary doesn't shy away from showing the impact of that virality, right? Like it wasn't all sunshine and roses. There were challenges too.
Yeah, like they faced some criticism, negative comments. The internet can be a harsh place, especially when you're putting yourself out there like that. But what was so inspiring was how they supported each other through all of it. They faced it together, and it really showcased the resilience of their relationship.
And that's such an important message, right? Because I think sometimes when we see these like fairy tale stories of success on social media, we forget that real life is messy and complicated. And showing their struggles as well as their triumphs makes their story that much more impactful, I think.
Definitely. And it also makes it more relatable, right? Because everybody faces challenges. So to see them go through that and come out stronger on the other side is really inspiring. Now, on top of the challenges, they also have this amazing opportunity, right, to become advocates for LGBTQ families.
Yet their platform gave them a voice, and they used it to promote acceptance and love.
Exactly. And the documentary shows them participating in events, sharing their story in different settings. It's like they took their personal journey and turned it into this vehicle for social change, which is amazing.
And the documentary doesn't just focus on Kordale and Caleb's perspective, right? They also interview other LGBTQ families who were directly impacted by seeing their story.
Yeah, and it's so powerful to hear those firsthand accounts. Like, people talk about how seeing Kordale and Caleb's family normalized on such a public platform gave them hope and a sense of belonging. It made them feel seen and validated. And that's the power of representation, right? It can have such a profound impact on people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Because for so long, LGBTQ families haven't really been shown in mainstream media, at least not in a positive light. So to see a family like theirs celebrated and embraced online, it challenges the status quo, and it helps to create a more inclusive and accepting world.
And I think it's important to remember, like, behind all the social media fame, there's still just a regular family, right? And the documentary does a good job of showing that. It gives you these glimpses into their everyday routines, the mundane tasks of parenting, the laughter, the frustration, the juggling act of work and family life. It humanizes them, and it reminds you that despite their viral fame, they're still grounded in the reality of their daily lives.
And that's so important for viewers to see, right? Because it reinforces the genuine nature of their connection and their commitment to each other and their kids.
Right, like it takes them off that pedestal of like, oh, they're these perfect Instagram family. And it shows that they're just real people trying to navigate life just like everyone else. And their online presence led to a lot of opportunities too, right? They started building a brand, collaborating with companies.
Right, and that's a whole other interesting aspect of their story because it raises questions about the challenges of maintaining authenticity when you're navigating the world of brands and sponsorships.
Absolutely. And the documentary does touch on that. It shows how Kordale and Caleb try to balance those opportunities with staying true to their values and the message that resonated with their audience in the first place.
Yeah, because it's easy to get swept up in that world, right?
Yeah.
And compromise your values for the sake of a deal. But it seems like they really tried to be intentional about the partnerships they took on.
Yeah, and I think that's why their audience continued to connect with them, because they could sense that genuineness. And to really drive home the impact of their story, the documentary ends by sharing stories from people whose lives were directly touched by Kordale and Caleb.
Yeah, like these heartfelt testimonials from individuals who were inspired by their openness, who felt seen and represented by their family.
It's so powerful because it shows the ripple effect of their decision to share their lives online. It wasn't just about likes and followers, it was about creating real human connection and making a positive impact on the world.
And it really reinforces the idea that representation matters, right?
Yeah.
That seeing yourself reflected in the media can have a profound impact on your sense of self and your place in the world.
Yeah.
It's something that I think we need more of, across all forms of media.
Totally. And as we wrap up this deep dive into Kordale and Caleb's story, it makes me think, like, what other stories are out there? What other narratives deserve greater visibility? And what can we do as individuals to help amplify those voices and create a more inclusive and understanding world?
It's a good question. And I think it's on all of us to seek out diverse perspectives, to challenge the status quo, and to use our own platforms, however big or small, to promote acceptance and understanding.
Yeah, because ultimately, Kordale and Caleb's story shows us that sharing our authentic selves can have a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves. It can inspire others, create change, and build a world where everyone feels seen and celebrated for who they are.